those big calls on all the big races. Welcome back to another edition of What a Shout. Brought to you every Friday morning. You know the drill by now. Somewhere in the capital, the Racing Post flagship feature weekend show with our sponsors, Bet365. Dave Orton, happy as ever. We are cooking with gas here in the Racing Post offices, literally cooking this week as well. Let's hope you've made the most of the sun out there. It looks like it's cooling down, certainly in the south this weekend at least. That'll suit one man next to me, Paul Kealy. You've been on fire, man. And I asked you this morning what sort of form you're on. You think you might have just wobbling?
Tipped over the edge, yeah. Not so good last week, but, you know, these things happen, don't you? You've got to bounce back and try again. But yeah, I had a couple of seconds yesterday and just things not clicking quite as they were, but that's how racing goes, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't keep a good man down. Got a couple of picks for us. It's your sort of weekend, is it? A couple of big handicaps?
Yeah, a couple of big handicaps. Obviously, we've got the group races that all the purists love, but, you know, when it comes to 6 to 4 shots, not my sort of punting heats, but it doesn't mean they're not interesting races.
Yeah, mainly Ascot and York, of course, with the King George, one of the great races on the flat season each year. We're going to preview that for you with Pat Cooney. Back at home this weekend, Pat.
Yes, back at home for my sins, but I thoroughly enjoyed myself at Newbury last week. It was tremendous racing, very hot. Nice to be sitting in the shade though.
I'm quite right, Pat. I can tell you what. Looking at your complexion, there, it's just as well you are under that umbrella this weekend. I can tell you that much. My goodness gracious me, the Ribena that is Pat Cooney joins us. And who have we got for you then? Shall we go down to Lambourne to see our guest this week? There's a small matter of Glorious Goodwood coming up. There's a small matter of a record-breaking sprinter coming back out to play. It is the trainer of the great Battaash. Charlie Hills joins us.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Charlie. Great to have you on. Charlie, I tell you what, at the moment, in the last 2 weeks, you're running a 23% strike weight, man. The sun has been shining.
So it doesn't feel like that, but yeah, just the last week or so, they just come back into some nice form. So yeah, looking forward to next week as well now.
And this year, Charlie, if I'm mistaken, let me know, but doesn't this mark a decade of you taking over the licence from your great father, Barry?
I haven't thought about that. Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah, absolutely. Time flies.
It absolutely it does. I can remember when, you know, I used to, like Kills, we'd have got into racing, and Pat as well, with the great horses that your father used to train. You know, memories of Chester, Doncaster, all the classics that came your way. It was, you know, some of the great horses. But it's fair to say that 2011, it went rather well for you, Charlie, didn't it? Let's get our graphics up on the screen. Charlie, your top horses in the last, obviously the last decade, by RPR, Battaash at the top, Muhara, Tilsit you got there. Some that aren't on there, though, like Just the Judge, your first classic winner, of course, Phoenix of Spain on that list as well. And Chrysalium, some great horses that you've trained, Charlie. She was the breakthrough, wasn't she, Just the Judge?
Just the Judge was, yeah, absolutely. She went unbeaten as a 2-year-old, finishing up winning the Rock Bell, I think it was. And then obviously the following year, finishing second to Sky Lantern in the English Guineas, but it was great to go to Ireland and win there.
Yes, and Chris writes Chrysalium. I think I'm naming that right. Chrysalium.
Yeah.
Chrysalium, is that right, Kills? Yeah. Thanks for that. It's unusual that you pronounce something quite right, but that was a Breeders' Cup win, wasn't it? She was a champion juvenile filly.
Yeah, she was very, 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 very good. Just the Judge was good as well, though. You know what I mean? There's some decent fillies, some decent colts. I mean, a couple of old favourites of mine. One's turned into a good side, one's threatening to turn into a good side. Cable Bay.
Yeah.
I used to love betting Cable. Just one of those really tough 7 furlong mile horses.
Half colours.
And the sprinter Qatar Glory, who's having a really good first season as well, isn't he? Another tough sprinter, and he seems to be churning out a few pretty good ones himself. It'll be interesting to see how his second career progresses as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it's all about speed, really, with you, Charlie, which is something in contrast to maybe tradition, of course, down with your father and your great dynasty. And Pat Cooney, you've got a question for Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie, I was just interested in, I was just going through the stats of all your big race wins, and most of them seem to be at a mile or less. Obviously, Just the Judge won over 10 furlongs and so forth. But with the success you've had over the shorter trips, is that a conscious policy when you are at the sales to buy the more sprint types? So I'm just looking like the likes of Magical Memory, Dutch Connection, Cable Bay, etc. You seem to have this penchant for the more sprint types rather than the stamina-laden ones. And I'm just wondering, is that a policy that you think of when you are going to the sales?
No, not really. But when you go to the sales now, I mean, most of the horses are by sprint stallions or got a lot of speed in their pedigrees. So I just think it's become quite fashionable, really, to breed speed, and we try and buy these yearlings with value, and you got owners as well our owners don't particularly like waiting too long. So it's just the way things have fallen, really. We don't get an awful lot of homebreds now as well, so that probably doesn't help.
You do have the odd hurdler, of course, and bumballs. It's not just that. A couple that you sold down to Australia as well that had a bit of stamina. And Charlie, talking about speed, of course, with Goodwood next week, we've got to talk to you about the great Battaash going for the record 5-time. He probably already sets the record, doesn't he, of course? Let's have a look at his wins then in the King George Sprint, of course. He lights it up, doesn't it? It doesn't seem to matter to him what the ground is at Goodwood. This course is just made for him, isn't it?
It really is. To think of the contrast between Goodwood and Ascot, there's probably about 4 seconds difference, isn't there, with the tracks? It really does lend to his advantages, really. I think there's about 4 seconds difference between, an Ascot and a Goodwood track. So
at Ascot in the King's Stand on his return, first time out, of course, he won it in the weird 2020 Royal Ascot that we had when a lot of horses had, come out fresh as well. You could argue that he was the one to take out the race because he chased that hot pace, couldn't you?
Well, I think he definitely was the one to take out the race. When you look at what happened to all the others that pressed the pace, he's beaten them by a mile, basically. And I think with a horse like Battaash, he's so fast that if horses are going to go really fast, he's going to want to go with them. You know what I mean? And there's only a certain amount of holding back you can do with a horse like that. And he still showed that turn of gear to get to the front. But obviously, very, very stiff track, Ascot, isn't it? I mean, when you look at where they were 3 furlongs out, the state of Oxted being rode along like mad, and there's Battaash full on, Goodwood is a much more different track. I mean, he probably would have won even with that pace at Goodwood, and that's the thing. And of course, he had that interrupted prep as well.
Yeah.
Remember, he wasn't in till late by all accounts, and he can only come on for it, and I don't see what's going to beat him at Goodwood.
No, quite right. I think everyone out there, so it will just be a case of what price we get, basically. I think the biggest compliment that we can pay Battaash, last summer we had Ed Chamberlain, the ITV Supremo, on, Charlie, and they had an idea at ITV, didn't they, in the Nunthorpe about getting a big clock, and can Battaash beat the clock, basically. First and foremost, there's only one sprinter I can possibly think of in my lifetime that could have ever had an idea like that around him, and that is testament to the longevity of the horse.
Yeah, absolutely. What a star he's been. It means so much to me if he won on Friday. Just to win 5 King Georges like that is just amazing, really. And it'd be an emotional day, really.
So a long week then for Charlie coming up to Friday. Later in the show, we'll try and get some more Goodwood pearls out of him. But let's move on and have a look exactly what we've got coming up for you on this stellar weekend. All right, the hot topic then. We'll be having a look at the potential for more racing. The fixture list, low levels of prize money. Yes, we're continuing on with that. There was a great piece in the Racing Post this week, ending a 4-part editorial. We'll get the guys' word on that. We'll be looking at the racing clues from the past week. All the race previews, kicking off with the King George. Don't you worry about that. Winners are plenty, I'm sure. The big calls and those important weekend naps. Hot topic. The impact of more racing. If you were watching last week, you'd have seen with Eve Johnson-Houghton, I guess we talked about Sunday service, the fact that there's going to be some more Sunday racing, yes, more prize money, but will it filter through the later times, the impact on racing welfare, or the staff, etc. We need to see some stellar racing on Sunday, don't we? Well, once again, this week it's really said, it is a hot topic at the moment, the impact of more racing. Basically, if you saw the piece this week that we did at end of a 4-part editorial, you would have seen our ideal fixture list, what perhaps we would suggest to do with the fixture list. You may remember in 2004, Office of Fair Trading gave the bulk of the fixture list to the racecourses, the BHA involved and the horsemen as well. So there's a tripartite, basically, who decide these fixture lists. The Racecourse Association came out in the week and said, we suggest that our poll says Project Enable, they called it, of course. They won't release the findings of this, but they suggest a small growth in the fixture list. More racing. Kils, let's come to you about this. Again, most people that we speak to, I don't know who you're out there, is there anyone out there that says we should have more racing?
I can't believe there is. I mean, look, we're talking about attendances dropping slightly, and you take the you take the big meetings out, and you know, there's been an awful lot of race meetings having less than 2,000 people go there, and you know, that can't be great, can it? I mean, where are they making their money from? But the point about the amount of races is the number of runners. Now, the smaller the fields, the less good that is for the levy. It doesn't extend to prize money, and I think the problem we've got is we've got a lot of very moderate racing, and we've got such low prize money that when it comes to the higher class races, you see it day in, day out. If you've got anything from class 3 or above, the fields are already dreadfully small, especially midweek. On a Saturday, they're fine. But you try and get a class 2, a class 3, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and 9 times out of 10, they'll have less than 8 runners. Prize money isn't high enough across the board, but we've got loads of moderate races. And then because the prize money for those, you know, decent handicappers isn't great, except for the massive races, they're going abroad. So we don't have that pool of really good horses.
Yeah.
So more races just means more lower class racing to me, and it's not what I want to see.
Yeah, there was a stat that we wheeled out in the week as well in the post. Again, a surprising one. I think perhaps we all knew this, but 48% of jumps races in the last decade, Kills, have had less than the dead 8 runners. I mean, and let's not even go into your weather, you know, over the winter as well. So here we are in the summer. We know there's more racing. We can race more. There's light, of course. It's summertime. But the dilution is happening. Charlie Hills, let's bring in you on this. Your thoughts on the impact of more racing?
Yeah, it's crazy, really, isn't it? It's unsustainable. You know, just, you know, where do you start, really? You know, we've got the staffing, obviously, is a major problem. Then we've got the jockeys. Is there enough jockeys to go around? All these, you know, they're only allowed to ride one meeting a day now. So, you know, there's a massive shortage of jockeys, which owners probably don't want. You know, some of these less younger jockeys on their horses. It's tricky, isn't it?
And Charlie, you'll be amazed to hear this, but we've got a bookmaker who usually would be hiding behind the sofa at this segment of the show. But even the bookmakers at the moment are saying, what's going on? This is our chance to change everything, Pat Cooney.
Yeah, I think this is just a simple equation. If you have less racing, you'll have bigger fields. Bigger fields lends itself to more turnover. That means the levy will go up, more chance of winning. I just think there is too much at the moment. And yes, it does come to prize. When I was looking, you know, at Ascot on the Friday, the lucky last today, the 440. Imagine that. You have a winner at Ascot on King George weekend. Do you know how much you get for winning the last race at Ascot on Friday? £4,563. That doesn't sound a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But if you're winning a race at Royal Ascot, wouldn't you think you'd be winning a bit more? I mean, you don't want to be handing out rosettes instead of prize money, but that doesn't sound an awful lot of money to me to be winning at Ascot. I'm not digging out Ascot. But yeah, there is just too much racing. That being said, I wouldn't want to tell a track like Musselburgh, oh, you're only having 5 meetings this year. I think it much depends on, can the tracks afford it? Is it sensible for them to do it? But yeah, it's too much. I think Saturday, there's a good blend to it, isn't there? There's 4 afternoon meetings, staggered starts. I think that's important, having staggered starts. One meeting starts at 12, another one starts at 2. And so it just drives through the day. And I think that works a lot better. So too much racing, what can we do about it? Staggered starts is going to help, but just got to get the field sizes up. That's very important to the turnover and indeed the levy.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the Racing Post comment, check out the members section on the website, go to your archive, you can find it basically. Does that triplet need to be broken up? Yes. The racecourses might have to take some medicine in the short term, but the long term, we do believe, will be better. Charlie, let's just give you the final word on this. As an owner, for example, you know, you've trained for some of the great owners, and yet you've got syndicates in your yard as well, very important part of it. If you're winning 2 or 3 races during the winter, you're still paying your training fees for the rest of the year. What's going on?
Yeah, I know. It's very disappointing, really. You know, I think we had a horse even last year with Pogo. You know, he was 3rd at Royal Ascot, and he won a listed race, and he barely even covered his training costs. You know, so you've got a horse like him, you know, what chance have you got?
The great Pogo, one of my favourites. I'm delighted that he got a mention on this. He didn't make the list, but let me tell you, you can still make that jump up in class.
Absolutely, yeah. Hopefully next year he will.
Okay, there you go. You got the word from the trainer. That was the hot topic. It's crazy. Racing clues from the past week then. Well, it was sizzling everywhere, but the snow did indeed fall. We covered it together in the studio, didn't we? The Irish Oaks. Now, it was Snowfalls to win, but my Lord, didn't she win it well?
Yeah, she did. I mean, she actually looked like she might be getting in a bit of trouble coming around the bend, but as soon as in the clear, away she went. And you know, there was always the question mark though because of soft ground at Epsom was how flattered was she by the winning margin? I mean, there was no question that she was flattered by winning it, but how flattered was she? She didn't beat them by as far, but that's exactly what you expect on faster ground, isn't it? But she's still miles better than them.
I remember saying to you at the time when we were watching it, it was almost like Patrick Mullins and Willie in the bumpers in Ireland in the winter. They ride them all the way out to the line. Ryan was still going, wasn't he, to the line? What's in the bonnet? What's under the bonnet,
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, she looks very, very, very good. She's going to have stiffer tasks than that, obviously. But, I mean, it's one of those. She had a busy 2-year-old season, but she just seems to be getting better and better. She's obviously very tough. And she's now very, very good with it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Yorkshire Oaks next then, all being well. We know that she goes on the sound service. She's won at that track at York, of course, Pat Cooney. But surely she's got to be favourite for the Arc, right?
Yeah, she is at the moment. I'm just too late getting on this bandwagon. You know, she had 7 races as a 2-year-old, only won 1. Her last race that she ran in was one of the Bet365, the Fillies Mile at Newmarket, a great Group 1 race. She was 8th of 10, beaten 12 lengths, and she started at 50-1. So I couldn't really take her seriously. I didn't take her seriously at York. She won that at 14-1. If you just judge her on the York win, the Epsom win, and the Curragh win, you've got to be thinking, I don't see she's ever going to get beat with that 3-year-old fillies allowance. So I say, I'm on the bandwagon now. It's taken me 3 races as a 3-year-old. I've just got to get out of my head what she did as a 2-year-old because that was too long ago. I want to judge her on what she's doing now. And she looks unstoppable to me at the moment.
It's very hard whenever it comes to racing. It's very hard to shake first impressions of a horse once you've made them. I mean, I've spent a lot of my time thinking, I don't like this horse. I don't like this. It keeps winning. Hang on a minute. Why don't you just admit you're bloody wrong?
We've always done.
You know what I mean? We always do it, don't you? And this is one of those. Hang on a minute. Look at that 2-year-old career. That's not a superstar. Well, hang on a minute. She's trying to tell us something else now, isn't she?
Yeah. When we used to work in a full office, Gills, I mean, in the Racing Post in particular, I'm sure the viewers you out here are the same in the pubs, wherever you're watching on the racecourse, wherever your friends are. You almost get your horses, don't you? And stubbornness comes into it, doesn't it?
Yeah, you
I
are
don't
stubborn.
believe the Archibald will ever go off the bridle, you know, that sort of
I'm
thing.
not having it.
Yeah. All right, so look, she's the real deal. We know that now. At Newbury, we must go to. There was the Steventon Stakes. We saw the Hunt Cup winner back up impressively. Real world.
Another horse that looked in trouble and then got in the clear. Yeah, very, very good. He's obviously a group horse. Very, might.
How high can he climb? Because that race has had a mixed history.
He might even be a Group 1 horse. It was just the way that he got the way that he, got rolling.
Yeah.
Once he got out, because I thought he was one of the first ones beat, and then he picked up and he went.
Yeah.
And I was, obviously he's going to find it much harder in better company, but he does have that change of gear, and he's won easily in the end, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Again, a horse has pulled himself out of trouble and then won well. So you would say the sky's the limit, but I mean, he can go quite high, I think.
Yeah, and then not later on, not for the first time, on Saturday in the last month or so, it was the Richard Hannon show, Pat Cooney, wasn't it? Happy Romance coming back to form in the Hackwood Stakes, winning out a muddling sprint, but it looks pretty solid form with Tabdeed in second, and Diligent Harry running his race. King's Lynn got sunk, sure the bookmakers were happy about that. And then, of course, a little bit later, Gubbas takes out the super sprint.
Yeah, and Gubbas is an interesting horse, isn't he? I spoke to Richard. I was down at Newbury, and I spoke to him before the race. And I said to him, Gubbas, look, 22 runners. He's only had the 1 run. That was back in April. Richard said, he's a right good horse, He said, he'd be one of the best ones I've got in the stable. And I was thinking, well, I don't know how many horses Richard's got, 2-year-olds in the yard, but he must have 50 or 60. So he seemed pretty confident to me. And he won narrowly, but I thought it was a terrific performance from him. And he's a horse going places. I did say to Richard afterwards that given how the form of the races worked out, the big 2 just didn't really turn up on the day for whatever reason. He might get an attractive mark for a nursery. And I think Richard was going, no. I think we'll go for the Richmond Stakes next. So he thinks he's a top-class horse. And it might be one of those horses, we just don't take the form that seriously because it was a bunch finish. But bear in mind, it was only his second ever run. 22 runners in the race. He did it really well. He'll be carrying my few quid at Goodwood if he turns up, be it a nursery or a group race.
There was a lovely nostalgic piece in the paper that Julia Muscat, our colleague, did about Richard Hannon and all those memories that we've got, on the start of his career, how he got up, and his association with Lord Carnarvon, one of the formerly great owners. And of course, John Harding in the Post this week carried on the narrative by doing his comment about, the super sprint and how it was decent. And he also said, of course, who invented the race? Richard Hannon with Lord Canal. So is he surprised they're farming it?
They won it 11 times now.
If I could invent a race for the type of race course that one, it's amazing. Isn't it? Richard Hannon, what a story.
Brilliant. But I mean, you read the Racing Post that day, the quote in the paper, he literally almost told you he was going to win.
Yeah.
He was that confident. And when you've got a trainer like Richard Hannon, I mean, don't get me wrong, I ignored it. So it's not half the time.
Yeah. It was a messy race, though, wasn't it?
It was a messy race.
Chippy, as we called him.
Chipotle got murdered by Del Mona, who runs on Saturday, and may well have gone very close. But I mean, Richard Hannon was very, very bullish. Yeah. Very, very bullish for a once raced, and given their record in the race, the amount of 2-year-olds they have, I mean, I'd say 60 was a conservative estimate every year.
So 12 months' time, whatever they run, just go for that. And let's go to midweek. We don't often do this on the show, and there's not been a group races, but there was a listed stakes at Sandown, which Inspiral won.
Yeah,
finally, Johnny Gosden has got another 2-year-old.
I looked at the history of that particular race, that particular listed race at Sandown doesn't very often produce much good. I mean, last year Fev Rover won it, to be fair, and she was third.
Running classics.
I was looking at it and I thought, well, she's running a really slow time at Newmarket. I know her closing sectionals were quick and that, and I thought, I can't have this at that price. Paid for that. I mean,
into even money and smashed up.
Another one, into even money, and another one who just briefly turned in for home, thought, hang on a minute, could be in a bit of trouble here, but edged out the outside. And actually, I think Frankie was surprised, because he got there 2 furlongs out. Because
he got a bit of a telling off, for getting there too
so quickly. Yeah, she got there so quickly because I think he might have actually had a little panic. Hang on a minute, I'm in the wrong place here. But when she picked up, crikey! I mean, I was too slow. I call it fat finger syndrome. But 33-1 went up for the Guineas.
It did,
and it lasted about a minute and a half tops, and down to 16s now. And I keep looking at it and I think, 16s, what's she going to do? John Gosden says, hang on a minute, I'm going to, she's light framed, we can't give her too much racing.
It's the classic route,
isn't it? Go to the Mayhill next.
A Doncaster Sledge.
She'll go to Mayhill next, she'll probably be 3 on to win there, and she'll go into the close season, 5-1 for the Guineas.
Yeah, because you go Mayhill, Phillies Mile.
Yeah, and he might stop at
He might
stop at the Mayhill. He doesn't need to go there, and if that's the case, she ends up first or second favourite for the Guineas.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to cover that.
16-1 is still quite big.
Yeah, so listen, a midweek treat there. We think that Johnny Gosden, despite saying that he's having a terrible time with his younger horses, there are still pearls in the great man's stable at Clarehaven. Let's get a big race preview out the way, shall we? The first of them. And it's not just a big race, it is a gigantic race preview. It's the King George. Of course, we have seen in recent years some of the absolute greats win. The Enables win 2 years ago, for example. Was that one of the greatest races in recent memory? I think it was. Just the 6 runners, Pat Cooney, but it is once again a boutique lineup.
Yeah, really, we were counting the days, weren't we? Just hoping beyond hope we'd get Love versus Adair as the big 2 clashing. And we've got what we wanted, haven't we? And what a support cast we have. We've got Lone Eagle and Mishrif. Broome, a very talented horse. Broome is 40-1. I mean, he's a talented horse to be 40-1. That just shows the depth of the race. It's all about the weather, this game, though. That's one of the old sayings, though, isn't it? And you look at Wonderful tonight, a Wonderful mare. She's a double-figure price for this race. And, the more I look at this race, I think there's 2 things that are going to happen with Wonderful tonight. Either she doesn't run and you get your money back, or it does rain and the ground's suitable for her, and she will be a popular choice for the race. So I can see wisdom in backing Wonderful tonight at double-figure prices. If it does rain, let's say there's the word soft in the title somewhere along the line, she can only be about a 5 or 6-1 chance to win. So you're getting a free value bet for nothing, really. But if we do our sums on the basis, there's Goodwood next week for her. She may go there instead. Then we have got the big 2, really. The office is split. I suppose Love has got that form. She didn't thrill me necessarily at Royal Ascot, but then this was always going to be her target. But you do look at the weight concession, don't you? She's 9'4", Adair 8 stone 10. The 3-year-olds have got a big advantage here, but the Derby, it looks a good line of form now. Was it just too good to be true, that performance, though? What, did he just burst through, catch the all, others napping? I'm not sure. I'm keen to see Adair again, but with Love, you know what you're going to get. So I lean towards Love, but a real thriller in prospect.
A real thriller in prospect. I think we can agree on that. Okay, Kills, before we pick the bones out of the form and what your most likely winner is, at the prices, price sensitive, I know you are, what is the weather going to do?
Well, this is it. I mean, Pat stole my thunder completely there. I was going to say, you just got to back Wonderful Tonight now, knowing that she isn't going to run, or she is and will be after price. And that's what we don't know, because, again, it's one of those, it's the worst sort of weather forecast you can get for racing. And it's, in my area, it is, flash flood warnings a lot, like, you know what I mean? I mean, we had these thunderstorm warnings the other day, and around my way, it rained for about 7 minutes.
Right.
But it hammered down, and it was ridiculous. There was puddles everywhere, and that's the sort of thing. That's the sort of thing that's likely. It's not just going to be steady drizzle or anything. If you catch one, you're going to catch a big one, but you might get none at all. I mean, on the websites it's saying like 30% chance, 30%, and there's a couple of 70s about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and it just depends on where they fall. These thunderstorms form in little pockets, and they move around, and you either get one or you don't. So we don't know. If it's soft ground, obviously Wonderful Tonight will not be anywhere near a double-figure price, but it'll need to rain a lot, won't it? I know they've put about 40 mil on in the last 8 days, but I mean, that's at the very least been needed, given how hot it's been, hasn't it? You know what I mean? Because the ground is rock hard where I am now.
Evapotranspiration.
Yeah, exactly, whatever they call it, yeah. So we don't know. In terms of form, I thought Love was fine. I thought, Love controlled the race last time in the Prince of Wales. It was well controlled. Didn't get an awful lot of pressure for the lead, but I mean, we know that she finds plenty. Yeah. And she may well be able to do that again.
She beat a cup winner.
Your worry with a Battaash is that he looks a very, very strong stayer. And a strong run race like the Derby, and maybe a tactical affair that we're going to get here. It's a little bit. Pardon me. It's a little bit.
We're expecting Broome to go on like he did in France last time.
Well, he might do. But
he's an attacking horse, isn't he?
Yeah, he is an attacking horse. But I mean, if he doesn't, then Love can do it herself. That's she's and she's the one that we know handles really fast ground as well. Adair hasn't been on really fast ground, has he? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So if it chucks down, it's going to be in his favour, isn't it? With the weight for age.
Definitely be in. Yeah, that'll definitely be in his favour. How good is the Derby form? Is the best horse in the Derby the one that finished third, or is the best horse in the Derby the one?
He lost 2 front shoes, Hurricane Lane, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and he's obviously a very, very good horse. Although he's only just reeled back Lone Eagle, again another jockey that nearly stole the race from
Lone Eagle in the race.
He's in the race. So interesting on that score. But you remember, all the other horses that ran in the Derby, with the exception of Bolshoi Bally, that clearly didn't run his race, have been beaten out of sight. And then you've got this one that's standing up the form really well. It's now Adair's turn to prove that he's every bit as good as he looked.
We thought it looked like an okay Derby going into it, unlike the Oaks, but we thought it looked a bit more of a race with depth, didn't it? And I think it is probably working out, right? Isn't he? Obviously, Moho Star at Hannon Horse, who still remains main, he's the elephant in the room a little bit with the form.
I think everything other than Hurricane Lane and Bolshoi Bally have been well beaten since, though. Yeah. I mean, let's wait and see. Hurricane Lane obviously brings that level of solidity to it, but Adair's got to prove it as well.
Any love for Mishriff at all before I go to Charlie?
Well, listen, John Gosden says he wants fast ground and always has wanted fast ground. Well, now he's almost certain to get it. Yeah. Then it could be his turn to shine as well. I mean, maybe he did get a little bit found out at Sandown. I'm not 100% sure how strong those races were.
Back off a break though, wasn't he? And
he was back.
He was last off the bridle.
Yeah, he was last off the bridle. But I mean, it didn't help him, did it? You know what I mean? Does he want a bigger field and a stronger gallop and that sort of thing? He did win very, very impressive on fast ground when he beat Vulcan Star at Newmarket early last season. But then a lot of his form was on soft ground, so it doesn't really. It doesn't really compute that he really wants fast ground. You know what I mean? He acts on anything.
So, back Wonderful Tonight. If it chucks down, she's going to half in price.
Wonderful Tonight, because she won't run unless the conditions are in her favour.
Most likely winner?
Most likely winner is Love, without a shadow, I think.
Yeah, I think Love. I was all over in the Prince of Wales. Once the defections came out, I thought she did it not the hard way. We'll get to... I don't know why Keel's up on that from, but that's teasing his big call later on. But she did. I don't think she's a horse that wants a lead, and I'll be amazed if she doesn't get a lead from Broome in this. And as long as it's not too soft underfoot, I think we're going to see an adorable performance. Charlie Hills, you've listened to everything then. Thoughts on the King George?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great race, isn't it? God, it's intriguing. I agree. I think Wonderful Tonight, if the rain comes, I'll definitely be on her side. I was really impressed with Lone Eagle, Martin Mead's horse, in the Irish Derby. I thought he ran a great race. Frankie, he's so good at Ascot. He could be good value, really.
Yeah, wonderful tonight. That Hardwick form it has been franked because Hookham came out and won at York, didn't it? So look, this is a great race. So love, wonderful tonight. I think we're sort of all agreeing. Unbelievable. That's the King George. 14,000 crowd expected at Ascot then. Glory days are nearly back again, and the 150 is the Princess Margaret kicking off the previews for you away from the King George. A 2-year-old fillies race, Keels. I always love this race. I used to love a stouty horse in something like this. And I've got to say, let me start. It's Ding Ding round 2, isn't it, between Desert Dreamer and System. System was having a second start and beat Desert Dreamer in a listed race when Desert Dreamer maybe didn't get the rub of the green. But I can't. I tried to find something to beat System. But an RPR of 97 on the second start, it's just a trajectory going up. Whereas Desert Dream's having a 5th run. Is she still going to be in the same form? We know that she's run well since at the July course again. I thought this was just pretty obvious. You're not sure, though?
No, I'm not convinced. I think this is much harder. I think there's lots of interest in unexposed horses. This race has gone to horses that have just come out of novice company after 1 or 2 starts. So, and I'm not convinced that race was that good. I mean, we've got a marker in there in Delmona, who was 5th. And she would have gone very close if she was able to run in a straight line. But unfortunately, Delmona isn't able to run in a straight line, and she didn't again in the super sprint. It was a messy race. She was the one who knocked Chipotle out in the super sprint, and she still finished 3rd in that. And she's talented, but all over the place. And I don't think, I don't think the form standard is that high. Yes, they're the right favourites. But I think there are interesting horses in the race.
Such as?
You've got Naslin in for Archie Watson. Not 100% convinced about that.
I look back at it. I wanted to be with that Kills, the sexy profile, the colours and Ollie. And
I exactly the same. I tried it, and then I thought, let's have a look at some of the others. And I like 2. I liked Zane Claudette at Newmarket. I thought that was a really nice run. Okay. Won very handily in the end, and I liked Attagirl Haydock. I thought Attagirl showed a nice change again. Now,
will she need to lead? That's the question. It's very difficult to do it at Ascot, isn't it?
Yeah, but she wasn't. I'd say she wasn't headstrong. She just went to the front and in her own time. Now, don't get me wrong. The time was dreadful. There's nothing special about the time performance at all. But just the way she did it, the way she won, eased down.
Yeah.
And Carl Burke knows how to train a decent 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And she just interested me a little bit. Not a race I'm going to go mad in, but I don't think it's one to be smashing up the favourite. Not that I do that in these 2-year-old races anyway.
It's one of those markets, Pat Cooney, isn't it, where they're not quite sure who could go off favourite. I suggest that Attagirl would be one to watch very closely.
Yeah, it's an interesting market, isn't it? We've got at the top of the market Desert Dreamer and System. As Keels has said, there wasn't much between them at Newmarket, and you would imagine there wouldn't be much between them again. As things stand at the moment, they're 11-4 joints, so that's 11-10 on. I wouldn't be thrilled about backing the 2 of them coupled. I'd rather have the other runners in the race. I get the unexposed, sexy profiles. And I thought Delmona, she was a bit unlucky in that very race at Newmarket. And as Keel said again, she ran very well in the super sprint, over 5, back up to 6 Mesu. I think the front 2, you can take them on. I'm not 100% sold on the overall form. And like I say, you've an Archie Watson, 1 run, 1 win. Carl Burke's coming down here. There's unexposed type that wouldn't have to step up to the plate too much to make an improvement and be competitive in it. So I think Delmona is fair at her current price. And I'd be looking maybe to lay the front 2 here, around about odds on coupled.
Get the favourite, the gentleman with me on the panel are keen to take on the front 2 in the market, but I'm keeping it simple with the system. The system is Hannon. Right then, let's have some fun. It's big call time. I'll figure it out. Shall I just get mine out of the way? Yeah, all right, okay, all right. Kills, can you get up on your phone? If you're watching out there now, get on your apps. If you're watching on YouTube or on your laptop, whatever, get your website open. Charlie, you might want to do this as well. Tomorrow, the 350 at York. It's another stakes. It looks like just one of the races that might go under the radar. Talk about going under the radar. And we should see more of this, I think. Naming of racehorses. There's a BHA segment on the website where you can go into a little box. Prospective owners out there, you're watching, I love this. We had a young producer called Will Carey who started at the Post last year, and his favourite game was to play what names are still available. Now, there's a Lawrence Mullaney horse, a Bi Mondialiste out of an Exceed Excel mare, and it's called Captain Hugh Hampton, isn't it?
It's Captain Hugh Hampton. I cannot believe.
How has that possibly got through?
Who lets these go through? I mean, nobody. You know, you imagine the people that are dealing with the names there. They don't even no idea what Hampton is today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now you're reading this, and I have to say there might be a northern-southern divide on this because we've got a northern producer, Dan Walsh, said I don't get it. Well, it's obviously, of course, it's a Cockney rhyming.
A bit of a posh divide as well.
It is, and our older viewers out there, or if you're fans of the Goon Show, might remember that he was indeed a character on the Goon Show, basically. But in the army, in the old days, basically, they used to get this through on the tannoy. They used to get it past all the great commandeers and all the brigadiers and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, a brilliant name and a bit of fun. Charlie, let's come to you. Naming of racehorses. I mean, are you one of these trainers, Charlie, that goes, let's have the red back out of, I don't know, Willow Colt or something like that, or the Frankel out of, I don't know, Midday Colt? Or do you look at these horses' names and really enjoy them?
No, you've got to have a bit of fun, haven't you? We got quite a fun one this year. The Zoffany is called Roxoff.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Exactly. But it just does make you wonder how it got through, Pat Cooney, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure there's been a few over the years, but I think it's quite innovative. It's all a bit of a fun, isn't it? Horses with silly names never win classics, though, do they?
Well, listen, Lawrence Mullaney will probably think he's got a worldie on his hands. So, Lawrence, the eyes of the racing world on you tomorrow. There have, of course, been some great ones over the years. Get your favourites in below. All right, Kills, a little bit of fun there. Bring it back.
Yeah, no, it's just about just watching the racing yesterday. And I am a massive fan of Oisin Murphy. I think he's the best around, all right, at the moment. But I think everybody else knows that. So what happens when you give a horse a 10-length lead when it's ridden by the championship? What is going on?
This is the Simon Dow filly in the last
I always think it's the Simon Dow filly in the last Sandown yesterday. I always think that it's a little bit lazy of journalists and commentators to say what a brilliant ride a horse has been given from the front, because leads are given as much as they are taken. Right, now this wasn't an outsider ridden by Harry Halfwick claiming 7. This was a last time out front running winner ridden by the champion jockey, and they've given him 10 lengths. And lo and behold, he's won. I mean, if I was Oisin Murphy, I'd have walked back into the weigh room, chuckling my head off, going, what on earth were you lot playing at? What is going on?
Yeah.
You're talking about a champion jockey riding a last time out winner, and he gets given a lead like that.
So is your gripe with the other jockeys, or?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Think about not only the horse you're riding, but the form of the other horses. Do a bit of work. Understand who you're riding against for a start. You know what I mean? It's not an idiot going out in front.
Well, he gave it a breather into the bend. You can watch this replay, basically.
Yeah, he gave it a breather, but didn't lose any ground.
You hear a lot of pundits saying, did it the hard way, don't you? Which is a bit of bugbear at the post for a long time.
Yeah, well, it's a bugbear with anyone with half a brain, really, isn't it? I mean, you do it the hard way, go to the front, set your own pace, take the shortest route, and have a lead. I mean, what's hard about that? It's not hard.
Something Charlie's brother Richard did with great success, of course, over the years, and Michael too. Now it comes to it as well. Charlie, horses and positional sense. Are you like one of these trainers? Like, I don't want to pigeonhole Dave Simcock and a couple of others, but certain trainers have certain run styles, don't they? Mark Johnson's, well, just put it close to the pace if there's no pace on lead. Is race tactics? What happens when the deck time comes at 10 a.m?
Well, I mean, obviously you've got to see where you're drawn, and the draws plays a big part in it. But you don't want to, I don't certainly put jockeys down to any orders, as such. You can say whether you think the horse will get a bit further, whether you think he's got a bit of a turn of foot, or whether he's just letting his stride, just tell him those sort of things, really.
Just let him crack on, which is, of course, something Battaash is very good at as well, isn't he? But Oisin Murphy at the moment, red hot, isn't he? And I love the way that he bounces out the stalls, and most of the time he's attacking his races, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's very much a thinker of a jockey, isn't he? He pretty much knows where he should be. I mean, it's a lazy thing to say he's never in the wrong place. You know what I mean? That's what everybody says about jockeys. But I mean, I do think he is the complete package at the moment and the best around. And I think he might end up straightforward defensive as title.
It looks that way. Will Buick, before that suspension, of course, at Royal Ascot, was right in the hunt. Tom Marquand as well, a couple of others that are up there as well. But he is red hot, Oisin. Okay, Pat Cooney, what's got your bugbear this week?
Yeah, I go to Wednesday, the 2:10 at Lingfield. Tin Drum finished second in the race. Poor old Jason Watson, he came in £2 light. and the horse was disqualified. I get if you come in £2 light, you should be disqualified. But a baking hot day, he came in £2 light. He was pushing and scrubbing from start to finish. I lost £2 in weight sitting in the back garden the other day. So, and that was with my feet up. So I felt sorry for him. I felt sorry for the horse. The one thing I couldn't quite understand, the trainer, Heather Main, I don't know the lady, she got fined £500. Why would she get fined £500 for that? The horse is weighed out with the correct weight. Jason Watson's lost £2 in weight. That's unfortunate. Why does Heather Main get a £500 fine for that? As I say, I don't know her. Then maybe they're the rules. But imagine you're the trainer and you're being told, right, okay, you've got to pay £500 now for that. I can't believe that.
Yeah, Charlie, how would you be feeling about that? Appeal time, I imagine.
Well, that's the first thing I do when I come off here. I'm going to go into the office and find out the answer to that. It sounds shocking, really.
Yeah, it does sound like there needs to be some sort of discretion kills, doesn't it? I mean, come on, it was ridiculous weather this week.
It doesn't. Yeah, and the weather was really bad. Like, it was bad in heat-wise, so you are going to lose weight. But and the other thing is, like Pat said, the jockey's weighed out correctly, and he's come back in wrong. What's that got to do with the trainer?
He's had some year, Jason Watson, as well, hasn't he? Of course, there was the incident out of the stalls at Nottingham. He's lost the job with Roger Charlton.
Yeah,
For a long while like that.
I mean, two things about that. I mean, it might not have worked in the first place, but I don't think Roger Charlton was big enough to have a stable jockey at the moment. I mean, he's probably holding him back, if anything, so I can see what's... Don't get me wrong, he's an ace trainer, Roger Charlton, but whether he's got the firepower to actually retain somebody... I'm not sure that would be a
slightly misleading headline then. But it
yeah.
has been a very up and down year.
Yeah, of course,
yeah. It's a tough one, Jason Watson. An absolute start in the saddle. Sure, he'll bounce back. There were some big calls for you. If this weekend you'd like to sign up to our sponsors, Bet365, why not do so with a referral code? Just type in SHOUT365, minimum £5 deposit for up to £100 bet credits. Terms and conditions apply. 3 o'clock at Ascot. Now you're talking, a lot of you will be saying. It's big handicap time again, preview-wise, here on What a Shout. Pat Cooney, who is going to go off favourite in this, man?
Well, at the moment, we're joint favourites Danya and Motakail, and they head the market, both in the Hamdan and Al Maktoum colours. You've got to pick your poison in this one, though. Danya's in stall 4, Motakail's in 19. Which side is going to have the advantage? Maybe this is one of these races where you back one drawn low and the other drawn high. So depends how you want to play this race. I do know Motakail. I spoke to Richard Hannon at Newbury on Saturday. He made the very shrewd observation. He trotted up in our Bunbury Cup at Newmarket. He only has a £3 penalty. He won that race by a long-looking 4 lengths. You'd have to say he's the best handicapped horse in the race on that evidence, and there's no denying he's got a solid enough chance. For my sins, and I don't like myself for even thinking it, Ropey Guest again.
We've all looked at him. Anyone out there who says they've not looked at Ropey Guest and thought about putting him up is a liar out there. We've all done it, haven't we? We're thinking the rain's coming. He loves Ascot. This is the day.
Me and Siegel put him up for the Wogan. I mean, it was 40-1. We thought we had an outsider with a chance. He went off about 7. It's the most ludicrous gamble I've ever seen.
Yeah, this is a horse that finished 4th in last year's Jersey and hasn't produced
Obviously,
since.
one of these days he's going to do it. One of them he is going to do it.
Yeah.
But whether it's in a Class 5,
lovable Ropey Guest. But, well, okay, someone had to put it up. Turns out it's Pat.
He's still 13. He's had a history of being unlucky, having terrible draws. 13. Well, at least he can pick this time around. I thought another cliff jump as well. Kimmy 5. He's got some sort of a chance as well. But I just keep looking at the Bunbury Cup form. And at some point, you just got to have some therapy, haven't you? And say, look, I can let Ropey Guest run for a change without me backing him. Oh. But some of these firms are going to be first 5, first 6. And I just keep looking at Ropey Guest thinking, he's bound to be in the first 6. Well, he hasn't been in the first 6 in his last 3 runs, so I don't know. Motakail, Richard Hannon, just the £3 penalty for a 4-length Bunbury Cup win. That's a good place to start, and probably I'm better off ending that way.
All right, let's put him on top for Pat. I mean, he has got a mark of, before we go on to Cliffs, and that was a bit of trolling going on from Pat there, from Kills and Kimmy 5 there. He has got a mark of 118 coming up. He runs off 109 on Saturday.
He runs off 112.
112, sorry, yeah.
Runs off 112 with his £3 penalty now. The last horse to win off a mark as high as 112 was?
Go on.
Rohan.
Wow.
Only a couple of weeks ago, but the one before that was, I think...
Well, that was Weight for Age, wasn't it?
Before that, I think, was Ocean Tempest 2014, 2015, something like in the 7 furlong race at Chester. It's very rare.
Yeah. Marvellous performances, these, aren't they, by the way?
Yeah, I've
These
got you, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, at Newmarket, again, the horse absolutely loves the place, and they didn't go very fast. And
Turned over
he's
at
got
Ascot.
to turn a foot. Obviously, he's won at Royal Ascot himself, but of a much lower mark. There's no pace in this race either.
Oh, here we go.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's not, you know, he hasn't got a real bad setup for him because he could go along there. I mean,
he's a horse that likes
I'm
to sit
interested
up,
to see what happens. Yeah, he's a horse that likes to sit up there.
Is that what you're suggesting?
There's
He
no pace
might
again.
see. Right.
There's no pace again, so he might get away with it. There's not an awful lot of obvious pace in the race. Now, you look at, I just had a look at the BHA website. Where is the best ground going to be? Stand side 8.2, centre 7.8, far side 8. So again, early indications are that the stand side is where you want to be. You definitely don't want to be in the centre. Now the stalls are in the centre. You would hope they would split. I would hope they would split into two groups, and I would hope so because I've backed Shine So Bright, who is on the low side. Now, Shine So Bright, I mean, they almost picked the wrong time to try to turn him into a hold-up horse.
Remarkable, wasn't it?
And it was a definite plan because you see Sylvester de Sousa, but to a certain extent it works because he settled. He settled, and he actually took a while to warm up. But when he got going, he was flying, and he was flying in the end. Okay, he's beaten 5 lengths. He's only £3 better off, £4 better off because he's dropped a pound. Can't win on that, but it was a good start trying to turn a horse into a hold-up horse from one that's been going, you know. But you could also say, well, if he goes on the far side, he might be able to get to make his own run in at his own pace. Different ways to look at it. The amount of times I've fancied a horse based on one set of possibilities, and they've done the other and then won anyway. It's weird. But looking back at this horse's form, he's running off a mark of 99 now. He was rated 115. He beat Lawrence in the Group 2 at York. He is a very, very good horse on a very good mark if Andrew Balder can get him back.
This was nearly nap time for me. I put him up in the Bunbury Cup, you'll remember. Royal Rapscallon was just ahead of him that day. I don't think he's out of it under Holly Doyle, but Shine So Bright has definitely got the back class to do it. You've pretty much stolen my thunder there.
We better have that each-way double then, haven't we?
Yeah.
Shine So Bright and Streamline.
There we go. There you go. You've been told. Shine So Bright, Bunbury Cup. That's the key. 3:15. Let's go to the Knavesmire again, shall we? The Royal Course of the North, I think we can say that. And it is the York Stakes. Another small but select field, Pat Cooney. Royal Ascot form going to be well advertised here by one of them. Who comes out on top?
Well, at the moment, Mohafeth is the favourite for the race. And, of course, he's a 3-year-old carrying 8.11. Armory is carrying 9 stone 9. £12, that sounds an awful lot of weight to me. But then I'm looking at the stats, and the 3-year-olds don't seem to have a great record in the race. I don't know how many turn up for the gig, but he's a fascinating runner, Mohafeth. I'm sure he's a type that's just going to keep improving. But I think he's going to have to here. He's rated 112. Armory's rated 119. Juan Elcano is rated 114. Now, this isn't easy for Mohafeth by any means. I look at Armory. He's just got a right good level of form. He's fought a few good battles, hasn't he? He's run against Siskin, Magical, Sir Dragonet down in Australia. Third beaten a length and a half by Love. You know what you're going to get with Armory, and I think he'll win. He has the £3 penalty, but on official ratings, he's £5 clear. It's an interesting runner for Aidan O'Brien. I'm sure he's coming here all guns blazing. I just think the favourite, he looks short enough to me, given what he's done, and get what he's going to do. But on what he's done so far, I think he's a short price. I think Armory will be the one for me here.
Chasing the ground, of course, Mohafeth, isn't he? And that's why he's not gone to King George, basically. He's come up here. Royal Ascot form all over the place. We have banter on this show, and we like to have a bit of fun, and we take the mickey out of each other. But Pat's done a couple of previews in the last week or two, which have been absolutely spot on. That Goodwood Stakes last week, if you remember, was just, we didn't have to add much to it. I think he's just done it again.
Absolutely, yeah, bang right. I mean, it's one thing, right? Ignore the names of all the horses and just think of 2 lines of form. Right? A length and 3/4 win from a horse rated 104, or a length and a half defeat to a horse rated 122.
Yeah.
Right? One line of form is miles better than the other, and it's not the way the betting is suggesting. It's a no-brainer for me. It's a classic case of bookmakers and punters siding with the sexy up-and-coming 3-year-old with 111 next to his name, rather than the horse that's got miles better form than running in miles better races. Juan Elcano is a miles better horse than anything Mohafeth has run against and he's nowhere near as good as Armory.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Armory should be favourite, and like Pat said, I think he'll win.
If you go back to your initial thoughts at the Prince of Wales Stakes, you thought, Armory came there to win it, didn't it? And then the two fillies just pulled clear of him. And if you just said, right, I'm going to go to York with him, Keels, next month for a Group 2, we just say wins, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was talk at the time. Oh, well, Armory, he came there and he didn't find anything. You got to remember, it was a steadily run race. Good horses finding in front of him. I don't think he did anything wrong there. He earned a career best on RPRs, which makes it 2 in a row in 2021. You know what I mean? So he's not a horse going backwards. His level has yet to be. His peak level may yet to have been reached as well, and it's already ahead of my half. I get that he's got this turn of foot, but has he got a turn of foot against a horse as good as Armory?
Armory's got a right old turn of foot as well, hasn't he? Yeah, you just get the feeling, because he's not a 1-1-1-1-1 horse coming from Ballydoyle, that he sometimes is a bigger price than he should be, isn't he? We think this will be in the York Stakes then, and of course this is around about, 15 minutes prior to the King George. Who did he get beaten by last time? Love. Could there be a price tumble if Armory stands firm? Weekend winner time then. If I may, I shall open the floor by going to the 240 at York. It's the Dash handicap up there. Clive Cox has got one here called Streamline. Going to come on for that Newcastle run last time. Check out his York form. He is ready to take this out. One at a price for you. Streamline in the 240. Kills.
I've tipped that in the weekend.
Hey, there we are.
Great minds. Oh, you may have jumped.
Great penalties.
You may have jumped on at the wrong time. I mean,
Possibly.
I think the banker of the week for me is Armory in the 3:15 of York.
Very strong on that is Keels. Pat Cooney.
Yeah, we're off to Newcastle, 4:30, number 2, Mashawa for Roger Varian. Now, interesting this, we had the entry stage for the St. Leger during the week. Mashawa was in it. This isn't one of these horses, he was entered as a yearling, he's still in. There was an entry stage, and he is still in the St. Leger. He runs in this handicap at Newcastle on Saturday off a marker 93. He's also in the Great Voltigeur, a group race. So this is potentially the classic line we always hear, a potential group horse in a handicap. He's still in the St. Leger. He's 25 to 1. It's a mile, 4.5 furlongs, 93. Roger Varian, Jack Mitchell. Roger Varian's a fair judge of a horse, isn't he? This is still in the Leger, running off 93.
There you are. We all have a group horse and a handicap. Charlie Hills, you know plenty about them. Of course, it's Stewards Cup coming up next Saturday. Magical Memory springs to mind, of course. That was a group horse and a handicap, wasn't it? My goodness gracious me. And I noticed you've got Motagali entered, Charlie.
Yeah, Motagali has been the aim to run him in this race for a while now. He just wouldn't want it to rain too much. He likes it fast. Nice low draw. I think he'd be there with a good each way chance, really.
Isn't it? Nice low draw already, getting that one out of the way, Kills. That's interesting, isn't it? OK, so that's Motagali. Now, Tilsit, your summer mile winner at Ascot, going the Mohatha route. Of course, he's got a certain classic winner to beat in there, but you're happy with him?
Yeah, I couldn't be happier. I think it's the best he's ever come out of a race in his life, actually. So he's in great nick. Obviously, we're stepping up to Group 1 level again. It looks an open race, really, I think. Obviously, we've got the Irish horse, Poetic Flair, to beat. And that's interesting when the 3-year-olds come and meet the older horses. But yeah, he's in great shape, and I'm sure he'll run a big race. It's nice knowing as well he's won on the track as well.
OK, yeah, it'd be great for the late great Khalid Abdullah as well, a race that we associate with those silks as well. So Charlie, this is the nap section. We know you're light this weekend. Obviously, you've got Battaash running next weekend, man. We're expecting that to be a tick. Please, Lord, about that. But of the rest of your team?
Well, I've got one runner the weekend, a 2-year-old by Churchill called Golden War. He ran last was seen in the Coventry. We just obviously a bit disappointing there, but we've had time to freshen him up, and I'm sure he'll run a big race there at Newmarket.
Interestingly. OK, so that's at Newmarket. There's just one. I want to be greedy if I can, Charlie, if you don't mind. I'd like to ask you a horse that really caught my eye. The Jersey ground at Ascot bottomed him, but Mutasabek, is that how we pronounce him? He looks like he could be another one off the production line.
Yeah, he's a lovely horse, very well bred horse. He ran a good race in the Guineas. He's only beaten sort of 6 lengths, so he wasn't disgraced there. And we were disappointed with him at Royal Ascot, but he had drawn 1 and he was a bit out the race really, and it was obviously bottomless. But we're going to put him in the Thoroughbred Stakes on Friday. and have a good look at the race. And as long as we're happy with him on Tuesday, I say we'll declare him.
There you go, a really good insight into Charlie Hills' team. You can see the producer kept coming back to me and I was glued, wasn't I? There you go, there are your weekend winners and some Goodwood hints. Well, we come to an end of another What a Shout. Thank you very much out there for watching. Charlie Hills, thanks for joining us from your new man cave down there in Lambourne.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was great fun. Nice talking to you all, and best of luck.
Well, hopefully, Charlie, next year we might even have you in the studio joining us. Battaash all the way. We're expecting that to win. It's been a great show. Kills, thanks for you coming back on.
No problem.
Weekend plans?
Weekend plans. I think I'm going to stay at home. It's going to lash it down with rain. I'm going to go to the Stewards Cup next Saturday instead of going to it.
Powder dry.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Oh, I believe that when I see it. All right, Pat Cooney, a nice weekend at home for you, man.
Yes, indeed, and opportunity to study for glorious Goodwood and Galway as well. So good competitive racing in store. So head down, nose in the form book all over the weekend.
Yeah, there you go. And of course, an honourable mention for Galway coming back. It's only 1,000, but there will be some vibe on the track at Ballybrick. Great stuff. What a week we've got in prospect then. We'll be back with you next Friday. Talk about the halfway stage, of course, and what's coming up on the big Friday and Saturday cars. Don't worry about that. Of course, don't forget safe gambling this week. Get all your selections in below. Questions for the panel. They do read them after the show. Don't you worry about anything. We've got you covered. Don't forget to download the free must-have Racing Post app. You can do that on the App Store or the Google Play Store itself. So while the sun is shining, if you're up north or if you're down south, get the brolly out. It's going to be sensational. Enjoy the sport.